Welcome back to Cody and the Cinema. Today we're discussing 10 titles that aren't new titles that I believe you should pick up from the July Barnes & Noble sale if you don't already own them. And what I did for this video is I went over to my shelf and said, what instinctively are 10 movies that I think people should have in their collection, and I just pulled them right off the shelf, ready to talk about them, so that this would be a little bit truer to its purpose, and so that my inherent passion for these movies would come out. And the first one I wanted to talk about is in my top 100 personal favorite movies list, Hasar Balthazar, Robert Bresson's best movie maybe, besides Malchette. And this is about a little donkey who is passed from owner to owner, and the world is incredibly cruel to this donkey, and all the donkey can do is make noises occasionally. This is not an overly sympathetic, overtly sad movie. It just displays the cruelty of humanity in such a poetic way. And Roger Ebert has a great review of this movie. It's not the fastest paced movie, but I find myself frequently thinking about how much I love this one. And in terms of just something that everyone needs to see for, if nothing else, their film history prowess, this is a must-do. And I have to say that as I've gotten older, Bresson's films are becoming more special to me and more impactful. Just sitting here filming this, I feel the weight of this story, just even thinking about it. So I did just pull these right off the shelf. What a powerful piece of cinema that one is. The second recommendation I have here, Ace in the Hole, my favorite Billy Wilder movie, actually, that's not The Apartment. So this is a really good Kirk Douglas performance where he's a newspaper man and he goes to Albuquerque and he sort of stumbles his way into the story of someone who's caught in by some Native American ruins. He's underground, and it becomes this scathing indictment of America's obsession with sensationalism. It is a brutal, tough film to watch. It's a pretty film. When I go to my national park trips, I've been to Mesa Verde a few times, and it kind of reminds me of some of the look of that, even though that's in South Colorado. But it's a beautiful movie. It's fun to watch. It's pretty dark, and it's not like funny Billy Wilder so much. And like I said, it's my favorite Kirk Douglas movie. So Ace in the Hole, I think, has been a little under the radar lately, but definitely worth seeing. Great one there. The next one, this is a movie that maybe behind Once Upon a Time in the West or The Searchers is my favorite film. And this is certainly my favorite black and white film. I'll refer to it, I'm sure, many times as I go throughout creating a YouTube channel. But Andrei Rublev is the black and white movie that every serious fan of movies needs to see multiple times. This is about an iconic painter in Russian history. It follows his life through a series of beautiful images. The scene where he encounters some pagans that challenge some things related to his faith is probably my favorite not Once Upon a Time in the West scene in movies. Maybe it's really pretty. This is just stunning cinematography. There's a scene where like a church is under attack that could not have been filmed any better if it tried. It is slow moving, but this is the movie that, one of the movies that actually got me to buy every Criterion movie that I've bought. And you absolutely have to see it. Like I said multiple times, this rewards multiple views. And one of the reasons I so highly recommend you getting this in the sale is that, sometimes you buy a Criterion and okay, am I even going to watch it more than once? No, this one's one that you could revisit over and over and find something new every time. Similarly, something like Stalker by the same director, Andrei Tarkovsky, would be good, but must have in your collection for sure. Just the absolute best black and white movie I've ever seen. Barry Lyndon, Stanley Kubrick's beautiful masterpiece of, the colors, the shots, every single shot's a painting. You'll hear that. People say that about this. There's a scene in here where Barry Lyndon, let me backtrack here. Let me go backward. So Barry Lyndon is a young lad who goes off to meet the world, and as he does, some fortunes, some misfortunes come his way, but he eventually marries a countess, and there's a scene where he meets her, and that whole sequence is like the best use of candle lighting you'll ever see. And this is like I said, this is probably the prettiest Stanley Kubrick movie. You might be more partial to 2001, depending on how big of a science fiction fan you are. I think this is his best movie. I know at one point Martin Scorsese had said it was his best, but this is sort of the gold standard of big, bombastic, historical dramas. There's another one here that in my opinion is just as good that I'm going to go over, but you definitely should see Barry Lyndon. For a long time with Barry Lyndon, I had this idea that this would be just a long biopic, and I didn't see it. And I ended up watching this whenever COVID was like first a thing, and I realized how big of a mistake I had made. This is the Stanley Kubrick movie for you. Next up, Breathless, Jean-Luc Godard. And this movie, I did not love it the first time I saw it, but since I've seen it a few times, the back of the disc here says that he burst onto the film scene in 1960 with his jazzy freeforms homage to the American film genres that inspired him. And this is French New Wave, as good as it gets. There is a middle scene where there's a good bit of just talking between two characters, and that was where I was originally turned off to the picture. But I've gone back and since looked at it on 4K. This is a little different. The French New Wave is a little different than some of the stuff in the collection. And I do think that this is something that if you don't already have some of that in your collection, like if you don't have the Cleo movie, I'll think of it. I'll try to add it in the video edit. If you don't have that in there, you should definitely have this, Breathless. One of my favorite films as I've revisited it. Nothing else. It's just so stylish and slick and sleek. Really good movie. Breathless. Love it. And I reviewed this semi-recently when I was first creating the channel, Am Cuba. This has some of the actual just best shots in a film in terms of the innovation and the moving camera and so forth is so great in this. I can't imagine my film collection without Am Cuba. It's a political film. It's highly political. It's stunning and something that if I were just getting into any movie related to politics, I would have to have this in my collection. Get Am Cuba if you haven't. It is one of the more recent ones to come out, but I love the picture. The next one, The Leopard, would be the only movie I've seen that rivals, if not is the equal to Barry Lyndon in terms of a very beautiful color, palette. Looks like a painting kind of movie. And this is about revolution and politics in Italy. Absolutely stunning performance. Burt Lancaster really surprised me in this. I don't know how he was even casted for this, and I don't know a whole lot about The Leopard. I've seen it once. It does have Claudia Cardinale in it, and I don't know how to pronounce his name, so be kind to me, YouTube. Alain Delon, I hope that's close. The same guy from La Samurai. Beautiful movie. Absolutely stunning. Have to have it in your collection if you've never seen it. There is a dance sequence in here that is among the best dance sequences ever filmed. If not the gold standard of like pretty dancing, in a ballroom kind of situation. Oh. It's so tough pulling movies right off a shelf and making a video, but I wanted to really capture the passion I have for these movies and not really prepare intentionally so that I would show you why you should have these. Okay. McCabe and Mrs. Miller, one of the best Westerns ever made. The revisionist Western from Robert Altman. It's not even entirely traditionally Western feeling, because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this was shot somewhere like Canada. It's a little bit like snowier and whatever. It's not going to be your Monument Valley kind of Western. But this is the most vulgar of the movies that I've gone over. But, what's his face? Ned Beatty. Yeah, Ned Beatty is so funny in this, man. He just drinks whiskey and eats eggs, and he works with Julie Christie, who is also great, and Don't Look Now. Don't Look Now. Rest in peace, Donald Sutherland. Anyway, let me go back to what I'm talking about here. But this has a Keith Carradine's in it in a famous scene by a bridge. But this is a good, like, how do the politics play out of a small Western town? How does money move? The style and feeling of this, I think I have a few fans of this channel who are Red Dead Redemption 2 fans. I think you're going to like, those of you that watch, that have that conversation with me sometimes, I think you're going to like this sort of look of this and the aesthetic. It's different than some of the other movies on the list, but a must-see Western. Now, I do have one I'm about to bring up here that I have a DVD copy of, and I know it has a 4K now. I have to imagine that the 4K is absolutely just breathtaking, because this movie looks even great on the DVD, and this is a movie that Martin Scorsese talked about, that he's always been in love with, The Red Shoes. And it's a little bit, the description I'm going to give you sounds a little silly, but this woman who is, I believe, a ballet dancer, or she's a ballerina, and she gets a hold of some shoes that are kind of creepy. I know it sounds weird, but it's a real good use of Technicolor. If you were to say, okay, Cody, recommend me a Technicolor film, I would say The Searchers. All right, recommend me another one, because you talk about The Searchers too much on your channel. The Red Shoes would probably be the second one I would recommend to you. Absolutely stunning movie. I want to get the 4K upgrade of this, but I have such a sentimental attachment to my DVD. But I know it's got to look good. And it does have a restoration demonstration with Martin Scorsese, of course. You should also check out Richard III, by the way. But that's a bonus one. And finally, I'm going to go over one that's a little bit less canon-esque. These are all ones that show up on everybody's list. But The Tree of Wooden Clogs is one that I personally vouch for a little bit more than some do. This is just a small little village of peasants who live under some kind of a feudal system, and they have to make do with their lives. It's on the back here. It uses the term neo-realistic techniques. The actual title and how that relates to what the wooden clogs mean in the story is a real heartbreaking scene. It is a little bit triggering, because the villagers have to deal with the use of an animal in here. But when I've seen this a couple times, I really feel like this, among all the sort of neo-realistic movies that I've watched, captures the everyday plight of the worker. And it's a beautiful film. It's a captivating film, as are all these. So The Tree of Wooden Clogs, if this isn't on your radar, you should get it. Most of the ones I have here, I think you could probably find at even a smaller Barnes & Noble store. So I wanted to pick off, while I was, even though I was kind of just picking things that just really caught my eye on my shelf, I also wanted to kind of pick ones that I thought you might actually be able to find there. So those are just 10 recommendations that I instinctively had. Like I said, I purposefully did not really prepare on this video. I wanted to give you kind of a gut reaction. This stuff I pulled off the shelf, so I apologize for any little mistakes that I've made explaining these movies. But sometimes I think when you're telling someone like, hey, like, these are movies that matter to me, you want to have that authentic sense of yourself come out, right? For people to see. What are you picking up in this sale? And notice I didn't talk about movies that I didn't already have. Let me know in the comments below. Some of you I know just have awesome Criterion recommendations. Anyway, we'll see you next time on Cody in the Cinema.